Folks, it has been a crazy couple of days, so let's just jump right in. It looks like Trump has finally hit the red button and is sending 500 Marines into LA. And people are starting to ask the question, who is really behind this escalation? Clearly, Trump and the governor of California haven't been getting along since the last time they met face to face, and Trump got completely out alpha mailed. And clearly, it's getting under Trump's skin. Here's the tweet that got him sued by Gavin Newsom, but there's something odd about it. It says, "If they spit, we will hit." This is a statement from the President of the United States concerning the catastrophic Gavin Newsom-inspired riots going on in LA. Kind of odd to reference yourself, the President of the United States, and say that you're making a statement. Here's another example. "We made a great decision in sending in the National Guard to deal with the violent, instigating riots in California." Who's we, President Trump? Who is we? And I'm not the only one asking these questions. Here's somebody else. Is Miller running this account? Why is he speaking in third person? Now, I'm not sure about the dementia. I think he was always this crazy, even from birth. Now, we know that they're scared of this narrative that Stephen Miller is the one that's actually behind this immigration policy. ABC went so far as to suspend Terry Moran, their star anchor, because of what he said about Stephen Miller being behind it all. ABC's Terry Moran wrote Saturday night on X in a since deleted post that what's interesting about Stephen Miller is not brains, it's bile, further describing President Donald Trump's top aide as a man who's richly endowed with the capacity for hatred and a world-class hater. And then the entire administration piled onto this idea of firing Terry Moran for correctly pointing out that Stephen Miller is behind this immigration policy, but it's not genius, it's just evil. Caroline Leavitt, as Propaganda Barbie, led the charge on this, being the one who personally reached out to ABC to inquire about how they hold Terry Moran responsible. Here's J.D. Vance, who just spends all of his time tweeting, because I guess the vice presidency is just a joke of a position now. He basically parrots the same sentiment. Here comes Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's equally evil wife, who's trying to make it seem like she's not cucking him with Elon Musk. She says that Terry Moran should be fired for this. But I mean, where's the lie? Stephen Miller seems to be the brains and the bile behind this operation. ABC has no grounds to fire Terry Moran, though they might anyway, because it seems like all of these broadcasters are going to bow down to Trump, even though Trump does not award concessions. During a tense meeting with ICE officials, Trump aide Stephen Miller strongly suggested that agents target convenience stores for undocumented migrants in an effort to up their arrest tallies, according to the report by a Washington Examiner. Miller came in there and eviscerated everyone. "You guys aren't doing a good job, you're horrible leaders." He just ripped into everyone. He had nothing positive to say about anybody. "Shot morale down," an official said. Well, at least that's one good thing. At least he's bumming these guys out. That's one silver lining. Miller recently told Fox News' Sean Hannity, "Under President Trump's leadership, we are looking to set a goal of a minimum of 3,000 arrests for ICE every day. And President Trump is going to keep pushing to get that number up each and every single day so we can get all the Biden illegals that were flooded into our country for 4 years out of our country." This guy is an absolute degenerate loser who hates brown people and has made it his purpose in life to be as evil as possible. Mind you, this is the man whose idea it was to separate families at the border and put a bunch of migrant children in camps the first term. Now we're seeing what happens when you just let the monster loose. So what's the goal? Why are they doing this? Well, Stephen Miller and Donald Trump obviously want one thing: an authoritarian fascist dictatorship. And they've already identified an avenue for achieving that dictatorship. It's to suspend habeas corpus, which is our right to challenge our detention in court. The only way they can legally suspend habeas corpus is in the face of an invasion. That's why they labeled cartels as terrorists, making their states responsible for their actions, as well as labeling all immigrants as members of those cartels. Now they can point to an image of a Mexican American holding a Mexican flag in America and say, "Look, we're being invaded." The Constitution is clear, Miller said, citing the clause allowing for suspension of habeas corpus during times of invasion. So it is an option we're actively looking at, but a lot of it depends on whether the court will do the right thing or not. Well, it doesn't look like the courts are doing the right thing because they are sending in the troops, which is a massive, and I mean this seriously, a massive federal overreach, and Trump testing the waters to see if the American public are okay with a little bit more authoritarianism.
Roughly 500 Marines are being mobilized in response to the protests in Los Angeles.
And this is a significant escalation from President Trump, who had activated National Guard troops over the weekend without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. In this new move, active duty military members are being deployed as a show of force against U.S. citizens. CNN's Natasha Bertrand is live for us at the Pentagon. Natasha, what are you learning?
Well, Brianna, this is something that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had previewed over the weekend. He said that if necessary, he would deploy the Marines to Los Angeles to help federal agents with handling the protests there. And it appears now that these Marines, according to our sources, they have been mobilized. These 500 Marines, a full Marine battalion based out of 29 Palms, California, which is just outside San Bernardino, about an hour away from Los Angeles. They have been mobilized and they are gearing up to go and help ICE agents as well as other federal officials deal with these protests in Los Angeles. Importantly, they're going to be bolstering as well the National Guard, guardsmen and women who have been activated in Los Angeles by President Trump. But as you said, it is a significant escalation of the president's use of the military as a show of force against these protesters. It's really not clear, the last time Marines were deployed to help essentially with riot control, though it's unclear at this point just what their actual tasking will be. Typically, if they are deployed to these situations, it is expected that they will operate in much the same way that the National Guard does, doing things like perimeter security, maybe some crowd control. But the rules of engagement here, we are told, are still being finalized, and Defense Department lawyers are also looking at the kinds of rules of engagement these Marines will have as they encounter protesters possibly on the streets of Los Angeles. But again, this coming at a very, very tense moment with the governor of California suing the Trump administration over, of course, the deployment of the National Guard by President Trump against his will there in California.
And here's how Gavin Newsom quickly responded. Governor Newsom suing President Trump and the Department of Defense for the illegal takeover of Cal Guard unit, an unmistakable step toward authoritarianism. Folks, what we're seeing is unprecedented, and the ball is still rolling. By the time this comes out, this might be old news. The ball is clearly rolling directly toward next Saturday, when Trump has his birthday military parade. There are nationwide protests being planned, and I encourage everyone to participate, but please be careful, be safe, look out for each other, but make your voices heard against this obvious un-American tyranny. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.
What crime has Governor Newsom committed?
A crime has he committed? I think his primary crime is running for governor, because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad. It's the wrong philosophy.